Hi, Miss Smith. I just want to thank you for coming back in today. Like I told you over the phone, today is just a review session to go over what the assessment says, what it means, um, and to give you kind of some understanding of any results that we receive, as well as current treatment goals that we may be able to help you with going forward, and just some tools that you can use to cope through your daily life. Last time you were here, we did a whole bunch of things, specifically having you do a lot of assessments. Specifically, we went through some of your history, your medical history. You told me some of the diagnoses that you already had, like the general anxiety disorder. With that being said, thank you for participating. The more information you gave us, the better it was for us to go ahead and tie in every possible outcome to see what the best solution was. You also told us about your traumatic event, seeing your hearing a gunshot and then your friend. Thank you for sharing that with us as well. All great things that we got to take in, great instances that we can pull from when we're going ahead to help you become better familiar with your diagnosis. So one of the things we talked about was your difficulties with math, and some of the tests were math-based tests. So not that it counted against you, but as we know, your scores were going to be a little lower with that area, specifically because math is not your strong suit. Other areas, such as your achievement, you tested a little low, but that is not, again, don't be discouraged. You tested low, and I'm thinking it's mostly because of your anxiety. So when it was something that seemed a little more difficult for you, or you weren't too familiar with it, you kind of got a little anxious, and then you were starting to make a few mistakes or take it a little longer to answer questions. So again, this is a learning thing. This is so we can best help you. So don't think anything is negatively affecting you. It's to help us help you. One of the things that we noticed in your information processing, specifically regarding attention, is that your performance in areas of speed and accuracy were consistent with those who have ADHD. So attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. Those things you talked about, not being able to concentrate, having restlessness, things like that. Those are all common symptoms of someone who suffers from ADHD. There are medications that you can take for that. We can go over some of that a little bit later if you're interested. If we go on to the next page, with your executive functioning, you had a mild impairment, but again, I think that was mostly related to being anxious, of doing something new that you weren't too familiar with. Your personality and mood, those things were relatively normal, except you had a high degree of psychological distress, meaning there was symptoms of tension, depression, agitation, about problems in your environment. I know we didn't get too into your family life or your peer group, support groups, and things like that. You do have a big support group and a big support network, but I think if we set you up with some assessments that were a little more detail oriented regarding your social networks around you and how it interferes with your internal system, your well-being, then I think we can better go ahead and assess that for you and get some more really important things, specifically regarding your interpersonal relationships, that can play a major role. So as far as everything we discussed, some of the recommendations that we came up with was that you have an extended amount of time when you're completing any high level functioning. So if you're taking an exam when you go back to school, if you're going for another assessment, that you be given an allotted amount of time. Not saying that that's always going to be the case with an an assessment, but it may be something that they can consider when they're going ahead to give you these assessments. Using a calculator, of course, when you have your standardized testing or exams at school, that might be able to help you a little more with your math. If you need extra breaks in between testing, or when you're at work and you're taking, you're doing a really strenuous or really important task that you have to focus on, because you have a little bit of difficulty with completing tasks and staying focused and concentrated, it may be helpful not only if you take breaks in between completing tasks, but that you limit your amount of multitasking. And also make sure, if possible, you sit in a desk that's maybe more in a more quiet area, so that way you're not too distracted all the time. Trying to think if there was anything else. One last thing that we kind of we can touch on is, if you in order to build your memory processes, and to train yourself to keep your things in a specific location. So say if you have a hook on your wall at home, you can leave your keys there every day to try to build a routine. If you leave your remote in a certain place, or you leave your purse or your jacket in a certain place, try to build your memory in that way. Get yourself in that kind of routine. Okay? So I think we went over everything. If you have any extra questions, feel free to let me know. If you can't think of anything right now, you can always call back. We can set up an appointment to get you all set up. All right? Thank you.